Hello, hello, hello. I am Jim Bob and welcome to another TSW Tuesday. And today we're going to be mile munching. I'm going to be making the final run that I need on the Class 166 to hit the 1660 miles required for the mile munching trophy. And we run a little bit of freight on the Class 66. How is everyone doing tonight? Got William, Galuska, Pecky and Katie in the chat. How you guys doing? And Joshka has popped in the chat as well. I'm feeling all right, Will. Thanks for asking. Had a little bit of time off. I was just feeling very run down and very drained, and my health was suffering a little bit, so I needed to take a little bit of time away just to kind of recharge the batteries a little bit, and had a good, relaxing week. Not recording or worrying about recording for the channel. Put a lot of hours into Railway Empire, working through the scenarios, and down to just 2 scenarios left to complete now. And when those are done, that is the game platinumed. So I'm down to the southeast. I've got to do Vulture and Gone with a Headwind, and then game is done. So looking forward to getting that finally out of the way. I've also been running some miles on this as well. As I say, I just need one more run now on the Class 166. So you can see here. Actually, no, it's the wrong screen, isn't it? If we go across. Here we go. There we go. I've currently run 1,643.85 miles. So one more run, one more 36.2 mile run will unlock the Mile Muncher trophy. That's what we're going to be kicking off with tonight. And then after that, we will be, as I say, moving probably over to the Class 66. I need 660 miles on this, and at the moment, I'm only on 76.5. So that's the last one that I need to complete the GWR pack. You can see I've already done the 430 miles needed for the Class 43. So slowly chipping away at the trophies on the base game stuff. After that, I'm probably going to switch over to the American content, because I haven't run that for a while, and run that, and then I'll finish up with the BR Talent on the S-Bahn stuff. But let's get started with our Mile Muncher scenario. So we need the 166. We're going to run spring clear, and there's a single scenario that I've been running on this, or a single service that I've been running repeatedly on this to speed up the process a bit, and it's this one here, the 1P24 Oxford to London Paddington. This runs from Reading straight through to Paddington, no stops, full speed the whole way. So the run takes around about 28 minutes, 29 minutes from start to finish, give or take. And then you can simply just hit restart once you've completed the service, and it sends you straight back to Reading and run it again and again. And it's a good way to put some miles down very quickly on the 166. William says his missus says I make Railway Empire look easy. The first time I play a scenario, sometimes I get it right, sometimes I get it wrong. When you go back in and there's no pressure to record, or you're not looking at something for the very first time, you can start to formulate different strategies, and you can try things out in a very different way. But it's one of those games that takes a little bit of practice. I'll put the cab lights on as well. Why not? There we go. So we're off and running. I've got this one down to a fine tune on this one. I've run this route so many times. When you start off, you have to put your reverser into neutral. That's right, forward from neutral. You also have to obviously hit your accelerator, and you have to do your master key. You can bring your throttle from brake down to neutral as soon as you've turned the key. And then once you put the reverser into forward, then you can then start to apply throttle, and you can just pull away instantly. It's impossible to do this on time without speeding somewhere on the route. It's physically impossible. I've tried so many times, and I've run this for damn near 1,600 miles on this particular route, and it's impossible to actually get there at 9:05 without speeding somewhere on the route. It's a little frustrating. Katie says, am I going to be getting F119? I don't know. Maybe not. I tend to probably get the F1 games every 2 or 3 years, just so I get my money's worth out of each iteration. So I don't get huge amounts of time to play the games if I'm doing a lot of stuff for the channel. And F1 is one of those games I like to run the full-length races. I like to do 100% distances. So each race takes an hour and a half to 2 hours, depending on the race. And then, of course, you've got the full-length practice sessions and qualifying sessions and everything that go before that as well. So, each weekend will take me 3 hours, at least, So, to get more than one season out of it, which you kind of really need to do, it takes some time. So I probably won't get F119, but I'll probably wait till next year and get the F120. Marcel has popped in the chat. Who else has popped in as well? DQ, how you doing, DQ? You can see we've got a yellow light up ahead. We can just ignore that because it's a train leaving, having recently left the station a bit further up. It's crossing over from the lane on our left to the line on our right. So that's happening way up the line. So this yellow light will go green. We don't have to worry about slowing down to 40 miles an hour either. We can just keep going at full whack. And we'll see that train come past us on our right-hand side shortly. There we go. The green light is hit. That train has now switched over onto the track on the right of us. Golden Gaming has popped in the chat. How you doing, Golden Gaming? And Mr. Mitchell as well. Good to see you. When I say, there goes that 166 I was telling you about. When I say I've got my money's worth with this game, in terms of the base game, yes. In terms of the DLCs, not so much, because the DLCs are so expensive. I haven't bought the 2 Loco packs that were available. We've got the BR Class 33 for the West Somerset Rail pack. I haven't bought that, and we've also got the brand new Deutsche Bahn expansion for the German route, the fast travel route. Because again, it's just a Loco. It's like 13 quid to add in one train. It just seems a bit expensive. So, when you buy a route pack, you're paying 25 quid, which is a lot, but you're paying 25 quid and you're getting a whole new environment. You're getting 2, maybe 3 trains. And it's a completely new sort of gaming world to mess around in. When you buy a Loco expansion, a Loco pack expansion for just, one train, it sits into a pre-made existing game world that doesn't really change. So for half the price of a full pack, it just seems a bit expensive. I preferably would like to see trains going for no more than a tenner, and even that I think is possibly a little expensive, and I'd like to see route packs reduced down to £15, because I just think they're too expensive at the moment. You want to play a nice big variety of routes and trains and services, but you kind of get priced out of quite a lot of them, unless you have a lot of money available, or in my case, very generous subscribers who have donated to help me purchase a couple of the packs, or the devs who helped me get started with the first couple of root packs. So it becomes very, very tricky to kind of experience the game as a whole, or the game world as a whole, with all the expansions, because they're just so damned expensive. Have I heard any more news on Truck Driver or Bus Simulator? I know Bus Simulator is all but ready. I'm just waiting for news on a release date. I keep searching. I know it's been doing the rounds at the trade shows over the last month or so. At the end of March and beginning of April, there are all these different trade events, and Bus Simulator was available in playable booths at those. We know that game is almost ready. It's just waiting for that release date, and I don't know when it's going to come, but hopefully it's going to be soon. As far as Truck Driver goes, they did actually post a new dev blog on that beginning of last week, or midway through last week, which I did link on the channel. On the community tab, I linked the little dev video. Still a way off on that one. I think we're looking towards the end of the year for that one. Trains should be £1 each. That's a little bit too cheap, Dan. I mean, there's a lot of work that goes involved, to authentically recreate the trains. £1 is way too cheap. They deserve. I think £7.50 would be a fair price for a loco, and £15 for a route pack would be my preferred kind of pricing. It'd be interesting to see how the sales actually break down. I think one of the reasons they go with the higher prices is because they don't expect people to buy every pack. They expect people to buy the packs that personally appeal to them. So the German audience is likely to go for the German trains. The UK audience is likely to go for the UK stuff. The American audience is likely to go for any American content and stick with what they know and see on a regular basis, and what they will have had an interest in as a child, growing up, rather than something's brand new, I'm going to get it regardless of where it's from. Which is so the higher pricing suggests that they're banking on that kind of strategy, so that the people that do invest in a particular region are buying everything in that region, and they're not banking on sales from outside of that region so much. I think it'd be interesting to see if they did reduce prices, whether it would lead to an increase in downloads, as people would like to experience and experiment with other regions. It's an interesting one. I think it could work. I'd like to see it happen. I don't think it probably will, though. But there are always sales. This stuff pops up on sale on a reasonably regular basis. How do the prices compare to PC prices? I think they're the same. I'm not 100% certain, but I think they're the same, says Andy. Neckersands TV has popped in as well. How you doing, Neckersands? And GTR Boy. Rainy days. TSW do a lot more sales for PC. Well, actually, no. Not so much TSW. Train Simulator. Train Simulator 19 or 2019 is very different to TSW. They're completely separate games. So, content. I don't know if the content is cross-compatible. I don't think it is. But they do a lot of sales on Train Simulator, not Train Sim World. So there's a lot more content available. There's a lot of user-created packs, I believe, available on Train Simulator as well on PC. Which is why you get all these, multiple eras and multiple regions, and you get Steam and all sorts of stuff in Train Simulator, whereas none of that exists in Train Sim World. Not as official content, anyway. Maybe as a mod pack or something. I don't know. Nekasan says, still haven't finished watching Subnautica because I don't want it to end. I'm going to have to go back and play that game again at some point. I really enjoyed that. That was so much fun to play. I wasn't sure what to expect from it. I wasn't sure how exciting the game would be. It's been a little while since the last patch went through, but they've been updating and improving the performance since launch as well. So it'd be quite nice to go back in and play it again, and with the latest performance patches, and see just how much smoother it ran in some of those chuggy, laggy areas like the Lost River and around the Aurora as well. Rainy Day says would be cool if they've done a Flying Scotsman. Yeah, I would love to see the Scotsman in this. I really would. Or the Mallard, two completely iconic, steam trains. But to be honest, any trains from that kind of era, I'd be happy with. Any steam trains. I'd love a little GWR pannier tank. That would be pretty cool. But yeah, the Scotsman and the Mallard, they're the two most iconic steam trains, I think, possibly of all time. They're the ones that everybody recognises. Andy says, did a service from Paddington to Penzance and got to Reading, and that was the game over, which I find a bit naughty. Yeah, the route only runs for, 36 miles from Reading to Paddington, that's it. So you'll do a service that goes beyond Reading, but it'll kick you off when it gets to Reading, because that's as far as the game world is created. It's frustrating because, especially when you're running the HST routes, you either get a route that has no stops or maybe one stop, and that's pretty much it. Oh, and there we go. There is the Mile Muncher trophy. Just popped up on the screen. You'll see probably a black box rather than the trophy thing pop up. Yeah, black box. I'm just looking on the replay on the laptop. But that was my trophy for the Mile Muncher. So I've just now hit 1,660 miles in the Class 166. So that's all of the trophies bar the Class 66 done for the Great Western Pack now. I need to knock out my 660 miles on the 166 there. William says, would I ever buy a PC? The thing with PC gaming is, if you're going to do PC gaming, you need a good PC. And unless you have regular disposable income, you need a very good PC, because otherwise you're going to have to keep upgrading components. If you build a PC on a budget, then it's going to be fine for a couple of years, and then you're going to need to upgrade parts, and you're going to have to go through that continual process of just buying and upgrading a new graphics card, more memory, better hard drive perhaps, maybe a better motherboard, better processors. All these different things are going to need to be continually upgraded. So you're going to want to go in and buy or build something at a very high end so that it kind of future-proofs it for several years. And I just don't have that kind of budget. To get a good future-proofed PC, probably looking 800 quid plus. And I don't have that. I'm not in work. I can't just pull that kind of money out of my ears. So I will probably not bother with PC gaming for the very, very foreseeable future, which is a shame, because there are a lot of great games that I would love to play. I'd love to play the Euro Truck games and the American Truck Simulator games, and some of those other simulators that are out there. Love to get my hands on those, but they just don't play on consoles at the moment. One that we do know is coming in the future, though, is Gold Rush, that has been officially announced, is being worked on, and they've shown off a little bit of footage of the game running on medium settings, or comparable to medium settings on a PC, using a standard PS4, and they said that there's a lot more performance still to come. They're still in the early days, but it's encouraging to see that progress is being made on that, and I look forward to getting my hands on Gold Rush when it does eventually come out for consoles. Did I see the video about seasons coming out for FS19? Hope to have it by summer. No, I haven't seen any recent updates on that. The last one I saw was when they were talking about crop rotation. So I haven't seen that, but yeah, it'd be nice if we can get it for summer. I honestly thought it would take longer than that, but if we can get it by summer, late summer, I'd be happy with that. Be very happy with that. I've been dying to get my hands on seasons ever since we switched over to 19 and I lost access to it. Zigger has popped in the chat. How you doing? And Jack, and Not Yet Dead. Martin says I can have his old PC when he gets his new one. Oh, I'm not going to say no to a free PC. That's very generous of you. Not Yet Dead says, just got in from work, what have I missed? You've missed me hit the mile muncher marker. I've hit 1,660 miles in the 166. But apart from that, you haven't really missed much. Just some general chit-chat and conversation. Let's switch to an external view. There we go, trying to make sure I don't get clobbered by anything. That should do. DQ says, you missed the best train wreck ever. Lies. All lies. Although, I tell you what, I've never derailed outside of... never derailed outside, this kind of view before. I've only ever derailed in cab. So now that we've hit the objective, I tell you what, let's just plough into the barriers at Paddington at full speed and see what happens. See if we see the train bounce and jump off the tracks. I'm really curious to see what that's going to look like. Go out on the in a blaze of glory on the 166. I think I'm going to mix something. Katie's saying Genesis is only 1874 on the Xbox store. Is that Genesis Alpha 1? Yeah, it's a good game. That I'm enjoying that game. A lot of fun. I will probably start to wind down on that soon, so that we can free up space for something else in the schedule. We'll see. We're coming to the end of our playthrough on Railway Empire as well, so that will also potentially open up a spot. I might possibly look to throw in some kind of scenario guides for a couple of the packs. I'm not sure yet. Let's see, how are we doing time-wise? We've got 6 minutes to go, 8 miles to go. This is the thing, you never seem to actually run time properly on this. There are times when you should be moving or closing faster than you are, but you never quite seem to make it. So unless we speed, In fact, no, I was talking about how it was impossible to finish this on time. I'm going to show you just how hard it is. You know, we got started pretty much straight away. You need to be pulling away instantly the second it hits, the second the scenario starts, and you have that little bit of faffing time at the start where you have to turn the key and put your reverser into forward and then get your throttle going. And all that eats up those valuable seconds that prevent you from actually getting onto there on time. If you had everything ready and you just went straight away, just started accelerating as soon as the scenario started, we would be able to make it. Because on the occasion when I have, been a little bit too slow on the brakes or deliberately sped a little bit through a speed junction on previous runs, I have been able to get there on time. But if I try and obey the speed rules at all times, it's impossible. And I want to show that. So when we get through this 100 zone, we'll be fine for a little while. Then we'll hit a 50 zone, and we'll have a couple of signal checks at 50. Then we'll drop to 40, then 25, and then we'll be into the station. And that will kick in with around about 2 miles to go, just over 2 to 3 miles to go. Going to jump back to our internal camp. So there's our 2.5 mile warning for the 50 zone. We're going to be slowing down pretty close to that zone. We're going to be moving to brake level 2, probably around about 650 meters away. A mile to go. Let's ease the throttle down now. Getting close to our point. So let's go to throttle neutral. Thousand yards away. So we're going to go throttle, braking 2 now to slow us down to 50. We'll probably actually ease off as well to braking 1. And then immediately go to throttle 3 to stop us from slowing down too much further. Back to throttle 2. And then just hold throttle 2, and this will keep us at about the right speed. We've got a slight downhill gradient, then a slight uphill gradient, then a slight downhill gradient again. So this will keep us balanced at around 50 miles an hour as opposed to bleeding speed off. You can see we dipped to 50. We're going to kind of crest the hill just around about here. It'll flatten out a bit, and then it'll dip back down again. First at point 2, then back to point 4. There we go, there's the point 4. Anyone would think I'd run this route over and over again. I know it like the back of my hand now. And we're still 1.2 miles away. We're running below 60 miles an hour, and now it's 9:04. So it's just impossible. And here comes our 40-mile-an-hour warning. There we go. Now we're just going to roll. This will glide us down to 40. We've got a 25 zone coming up next. And we'll hit that at about 250 metres or 250 yards away. That'll take us down. We're not going to ram the boundaries on this one. I want to show just how hard it is to get in at 9:05. And I class 9:05 and 59 seconds as 9:05. It's impossible. As I'm going to try and demonstrate that it's just impossible to get there on time because you don't have that instant ability to pull away at the start of the scenario. Fraction slow there, hitting the brakes. I glanced at the chat for a second. So we might go in a little bit fast. But here's where it's going to get really tight. Watch the clock. We've got 18 seconds to get in and get stopped. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. 9:06. It's impossible, look, see? Absolutely impossible. 9:06 and 5 seconds. You just physically cannot do it unless you speed on the route. It's so frustrating. It's so annoying. Because you don't have that ability to just instantly pull away at the start of the scenario. You have to turn the key and do the reverser and get your throttle done, you know. That's what costs you the ability to actually make this route on time. It's silly, the fact that, you know, the master key is turned off. You know, the reverser and the throttle you could do, but having to go in and fiddly with the controller. I mean, if I knew the key shortcut on my keyboard, then I suppose I could do it that way, but it's just, they give you these unobtainable objectives. It frustrates me. I can't help but get wound up by it. But there we go. We've done the mile munching, and I've also demonstrated how it is impossible to run this service on time. So we're going to move over to the Class 66 and run some freight now. Put some miles on that one. Just need to lock this one off. There we go. 36.3 miles driven, 28 minutes and 12 seconds taken. And we arrived a minute after we were supposed to. Right, so let's go to the main menu. Speaking of hardware, there's an interview with Mark Cerny, the lead architect of the PS4, who is also the lead architect on the PS5, in Wired today. And he's talking about the PS5 and starting to throw out some first official details about the PS5. It's been a while, but we're finally starting to get some official information, which is awesome. It's going to have an incredibly fast SSD drive built into it, faster than reportedly faster than anything that's available for the PC market at the moment. You know, custom built for PS4s. Anyone who's played Spider-Man will know that, you know, when you do fast travel, you have those little loading sections where, you know, you might see Spidey on the subway, you know, sat next to someone in a Spidey costume, or he's on his phone on the front of the L train or whatever. But it's a 15-second load on a PS4, a PS4 Pro. They demonstrated the new dev kit making that same move, and it was 0.8 seconds to fast travel. That was, you know, the loading screen, 0.8 seconds. That's insane. And it's going to be huge for so many games. So many games these days as well now have long loading sequences between opening a door It depends what's on the other side of the door, how big that game environment is, what needs to be rendered in and created, read from the discs. So you can get minute-long loading sequences easy. Those are going to be almost non-existent going with the PS5 by the look of it, which is amazing. And ray tracing is going to be on the PS5 as well, which is going to be awesome for both audio and visual. So really looking forward to that. Let's see, what have we got? Bristol to Felixstowe. I don't really know what a lot of these ones are in terms of the content. Let's go Angerstein Wharf to Stoke Gifford. Let's try this one. So, if you want to have a look at that article, I highly recommend it. Let me see if I can actually find it while we're loading up. Just going to pause for a second. I'm going to pop this into the chat. I'm having to do this with my phone, so it'll take a moment. Bear with me. Okay, into the chats. Pause so I don't hear myself on the microphone. That just sounds weird. Here we go. There is the link to the article, so have a read of that later if you're at all interested in PS5. It's the first official information that Sony have released. So, let's see, what have we got to do? We've got to get going. Reverser, push that to forwards. Let's get some throttle on. Lights. God, it's been so long since I've driven this. I've got to remember where all the lights are. They're up here, aren't they? Tail lights on. Instrument lights are on. Desk lights are on. Cab lights are on. Marker lights. Night. Demister and brake test, those to worry about. We're not moving. Let's just discharge the brakes. I bet I haven't started the where's the key? I think I might have put too much. Yeah, I put too many revs through the engine, too many amps through the engine, and it just shorted it out. So you've got to remember, you've got to keep it in the green to get the movement. There we go. So we've got to run. Oh, just looks like we're running straight 30 miles. Now, invariably, we're going to have some speed checks at some point along the way on this, so I'm not going to just hit 80 and stick at 80 because it's going to take us a long time to slow down. Let's see what we're hauling as well. DB Schenker aggregate wagons by the look of it. Yep, quite a few of them. There we go, trundling our way through. Alright, let's go back on board. Checking which brakes I'm on. There we go. We're almost at 30, and I've got an 80 zone coming up, and then after that it's going to dip to 70 again. That's because we've switched lines now. But we are going to hit, oh, there we go, we're up to, there's 80, then 70, and then 90. This is because we're switching lines. It keeps changing what our speed limit is going to be. Oops. That's what I meant to do. It's dark, isn't it? We don't normally run evening services. Usually because it is so hard to see anything. There we go. Oh, Marcel is off. Take it easy, Marcel. Good to see you. And Donnie's popped in. How you doing, Donnie? I've killed my drink. Right, I need to go grab another one. Hopefully, nothing dramatic is going to happen in the 30 seconds I step away from the microphone. And I'm back, and oh, we're all dying in a horrible fireball explosion. No, we're fine. Yes, you did hear the lighter click. Oh, you hear the can click. Oh, that's better. Oh, that's very dark on the screen, isn't it? Get a little bit more light. Let's go back inside. The PS5 sounds like it's going to cost a small fortune on release. I don't think they will. I really don't think they will. But I think we're looking at this. I would imagine we're probably looking at PS4 release prices, so around $400, for 350 quid. Around that kind of price. Of course, it might be 400 quid. It depends on whether we're going to be in or out of Europe by that point, and how devalued the pound is going to end up being. Thanks to the complete mess that Brexit has become. Whether you voted for or against it, no one can agree on the fact that, or no one can disagree with the fact that it's been handled so badly that it's just a disaster at the moment. But Sony learnt their lesson with the PS3. They released that at $600, and even that was making a big loss on the unit. And they got ridiculed for the price of it. And then they learnt that lesson with the PS4. So Microsoft came out and they released the Xbox at $500, and they forced you to have the Xbox Connect in with the bundle at launch. Obviously they took it out later, but at launch it was $500, had to come with Connect, and Sony came out and it was just $100 cheaper. Microsoft learned that lesson this time around. So Microsoft won't price themselves out next time, I don't think. And Sony have learned that lesson in the past. I can't see them making that mistake again of going back up to a very, very expensive unit. Maybe it'll be slightly more expensive than the current system was at launch, but not by much. I wouldn't have thought, we're probably looking at about, I would imagine around PS4 launch prices. It would just be stupid and suicidal to alienate their audience by releasing at such a huge price. But it is definitely going to be backwards compatible. That has been officially confirmed as well. So it'll be you'll be able to put, and it will have physical media disc as well. So you will be able to put your PS4 games into a PS5. You know, if you have discs, you'll be able to play PS4 discs on a PS5. That's confirmed. So yeah, we've speculated about that for a long time. It's been expected but not officially confirmed. That has been officially confirmed in that interview. So, you know, all PS4 games will work on a PS5. So that makes it kind of more of a softer upgrade, because you've got to replace the hardware, but the software carries across. And the current VR headset, if you're into VR as well, it's expected that there will be a version 2 of VR around the launch of PS5, with some of the stuff baked into the unit. Again, nothing's been confirmed, and they haven't discussed VR at all, but they have confirmed that the current VR headset will work with the next generation console. Izzy's popped to the chat. How you doing, Izzy? Take it easy, Pecky. Glad to see you popping in. It's been a little while since I've seen you pop in, so good to see you. Not Yet Dead says no one remembered their Blackadder. I love Blackadder. That's a great series. Netflix have got seasons 3 and 4 available on UK Netflix. I don't know about American Netflix, but seasons 3 and 4 are there. Seasons 1 and 2 not at the moment. They were a while back, a year or two ago, but at the moment it's just seasons 3 and 4. But I do love Blackadder. And another old classic TV series from the UK that's I've just discovered on Netflix is Men Behaving Badly. All 7 seasons, all 6 seasons, and the sort of the 3-part special that was season 7. I'm almost through the end of season 6 at the moment. Been watching that over the last 24 hours. I love Men Behaving Badly. Tommy's popped in the chat. How you doing, Tommy? Another series I've been binge watching through at the moment as well is my my Blu-ray set of the X-Files. The original X-Files, not the relaunched and revamped version they tried a few years ago, which was just awful. But the original stuff, you know, the original 9-season run. And I've got the complete set on Blu-ray box set, and it's glorious. One of the great things about Fox when they filmed that was that they filmed it in cinematic, so they were able to go back to the original stuff, which obviously on the TV days was letterboxed at 4:3, and standard definition was pretty, you know, low quality stuff, and they had all the original stuff on cinematic negatives, so they were able to go and remaster the entire thing from start to finish. So it's in full glorious 1080p with surround sound and full 16:9 aspect ratio, and right from the very first episode from the pilot, and it just looks and sounds and is glorious. There was some amazing storytelling in some of the earlier series of X-Files, and even in some of the sort of mid-series as well. It started to get a little bit tired towards the end of its run, but it's glorious watching it in high def. It really is. Right, I've just noticed we've got a 2-mile distance to slow down, so I'm going to start to ease the brakes a little bit, start to bleed that speed off, as we've got 40 miles an hour to drain and a very heavy train to slow down. Are we going to get more slots on PS5 on Farm Sim 19? Well, no, because PS5 isn't due out until Farm Sim 21. So we're not going to see the PS5 this year. We might see it announced, but we won't see it released this year. Yeah, we're looking at next year for a release at the earliest. We may possibly get a performance update for Farming Sim 19, depending on when the PS5 is released. For anyone who has it on the PS5 or plays it on the PS5, but like I said, we're talking a long way off yet. I doubt it. I doubt it'll happen. And then how well it'll do on Farm Sim 21 will turn down to the devs and how much they decide to optimize their game engine for it, because the console will be more than capable. It's capable of more than what the devs are doing now. It's just they're limited by their dev team's size and resources as to what they can actually achieve, and their budget. Stefan's in the chat. How you doing, Stefan? Alright, what's after this 40 zone? We're switching lines, that's why we had to slow down. That makes sense. Gotta wait for the rear of the train to clear the signal, or clear the points. And then we'll be able to accelerate back up again. Maybe we'll have reflecting beacons in FS21, says Dan. You would think. But then again, right, let's really ramp that throttle up. If we go past a class 43 there. Brakes are released. We're gaining speed again, slowly but surely. That's 50. Let's take a quick look further down the line. See what's coming up. Another train there that's going to pull away from us. We're not going to catch that, I don't think. Some more line switching, so we're going to have to slow down again at this point here as we switch tracks. That'll be another 40 zone through the station. Then a very long run through to possibly our terminus. Nope, another line switching over there as well. So we're switching over to the third lane, then back to the first line in a couple of places. We'll have slowdowns at both of those points, so we'll have to be wary that we don't miss our braking zones. So what maps is everyone playing on FS19? Now that we had a little flurry of maps coming out, what map has everyone kind of settled on? For those of you that play Farm Sim. And I imagine that's probably a good chunk of you. Obviously I'm still doing Marwell for our Let's Play series, but I'm also, I'm starting at the moment, I'm in my initial stages of getting a small pig farm up and running on Midland, because I do like that map. That's very nice. We know that we've got Welker Farms coming out soon as well. That's getting close to release. I think that's going to be a lot better this time around than it was last time. There were just too many little issues I had with that map last time out. I couldn't enjoy it. Mainly, I think a lot of the big issue I had was with the stones that just kept dividing the weeds, dividing the fields that couldn't be destroyed. We will be able to get rid of those now with terraforming. Mappers Paradise themselves, got frustrated with those sort of dividing stones as well, which is, I think, another reason why they're going. And you know, being able to create big monster fields is what that map is all about, I think. You know, using the big buds, using the really big equipment, having these monster fields. I'm looking forward to version 2 of that map. And the Big Brute is coming back as well. The Big Bud Sprayer from Black Sheep, that's on its way back. That's going to be cool. I'm imagining that will be released at the same point as Light. Need to slam those brakes on. And the direct brake as well. Might have to hit the emergency brake as well at this point, hoping we won't have to. We did catch that train, look, that's a train we saw earlier on the overhead map. Just on the other line there, on line 3. That's the one that we've got the red light for. Because we've caught up with it. And it's occupying the line that we need to switch to. Alright, direct brake is released. Release the auto brake. There we go, we'll just trundle forward ever so slowly. I'm going to say we're going to wait for that class 166 on line 3 to move a bit further through the next signal block before these lights will change. Let's see, people are playing Woodshire, Old Streams, Mercury Farms. Not Yet Dead is right as well, yeah. We've got Aggravation. I'm sure Donnie's going to be pleased to see that one. Aggravation is coming back this week. And interestingly enough, the way they've phrased it suggests it's coming out as a free DLC rather than a mod. So it'll be a free DLC pack that will be the map and all the equipment. I really hope that's the case, because it was crying out for that last time, and instead it was this huge map file and this huge equipment file, and it just the pair of them ate up, you know, a massive amount of storage space. And I really hope that, you know, they do actually release it as a free DLC on the store rather than as a mod pack. How's everyone else's mod hub looking, by the way? I'm up to about 90% on my mod storage. I haven't got everything installed. I've got most things installed. A few of the maps. I've only got like 3 maps installed, I think. 4 or 5. Maybe, actually, no, I've got 4 or 5 maps installed. And most of the mods. And I'm at 90% on my storage. I'm going to have to really start pruning a lot of stuff out of there soon, I think. Oh, we could be sat here for a little while. Let's take a quick look. Yeah, see, we need to move through onto this line here. And that train's stopped in the station. Ah, there we go. It's moving through. And this train, is that going to switch lines as well? If it is... Oh, no, we've got yellow lights. There we go. We're away. Let's get a little bit more throttle. There we go. Now, is that train in front of us staying on that line, or has it moved off? It's still on that line at the moment, so we're going to have a speed restriction while we're behind it, unless that thing accelerates up to 100 miles an hour or so. It's a 166, so it'll probably top at 90. Yeah, you can see, look, we've got a 40 zone coming up as we switch over the tracks. And it's only just cleared the next set of signals in front of us, which is why we're now on a yellow. That thing needs to accelerate. It needs to get up to 90. We'll probably run at around 60, I think, for this next stretch. That's one set of switching. We've got to do a switch over to the third line here. There it goes. Stefan says he would love to see a new version of Bjornholm. You know, I'm amazed we didn't actually get Bjornholm released as a mod map in FS17. I know that there are quite a few different variations of Bjornholm on PC. You know, some with the Bjornholm name, some with a new name, but using Bjornholm as a template. Be interesting to see if we do actually get that map come through this time around, if someone makes a change to it. I think it depends how protective of the original design Giants want to be as well. Not Yet Dead says would like to see Altenstein if we get the right mods. Yeah, I was a big fan of Altenstein. That's a great map. He says, I don't think we will see it. I'm not so sure. I think we will. At some point. You know, Red Kindness has done that map. We've already seen one map from him. I can see, you know, with Woodshire coming back, I can see Altenstein coming back as well. I'd really like to see that one. Right, let's get our throttle up a bit more. Let's get our speed, as I say, up to around about 60-70 miles an hour, and then we'll just hold the station at that, I think. Dan says he's at 23% storage on his mod hub at the moment, but it doesn't download much stuff. Yeah, in the early days, I always like to download a lot of stuff just so I can try it out, and then as I start to experiment with different bits of equipment, I'll choose whether or not to keep it or to dump it. So my initial flurry of mods, I always download pretty much everything and try them out, and then once I've tried it, I'll then make a decision as to whether or not it's something I'm going to keep using in the future or use again in the future, or if I'm never going to use it again and then it's gone. So mine will start getting trimmed down soon. but I am longing for that big, massive field map. You know, that monster farming, you know, experience at the moment, and so that's why I'm looking forward to Welker. I think, you know, that'll satisfy that itch. How you doing, Pete? Good to see you pop in the chat. Let's ease our throttle down to 4. We'll try and hold station around this kind of speed, I think. Don't forget, we have got to switch back over to line 1 again at some point in the not too distant future, which will be another slowing down point. We have got to go through a station before that at some point as well. And that might have speed restrictions imposed on it. So again, because it's a long, heavy train, I don't want us to suddenly get hit with a red light or a massively slow speed change that we just can't reach and fail the scenario as a result. Pete says he's excited for the 182 being drivable on MSB. Are you talking about the brand new loco that's just come out? Because that's actually for the base game content, not for the main Spec Art barn route that's come out. The brand new loco, which came out last week, was it? End of last week? Is actually an add-on for the base game for the S-Barn pack of Train Sim World. So, well, there we go. That's 100 miles in the Class 66. Very nice. I need to do that 560 more miles to go to get the trophy for this particular loco. Oh, there we go. We've got a yellow light coming up, warning of slowing down. Let's have another little look outside. Very dark, as you can see. No lights around the side for us to really bounce off the side of the trains. Oh, it's going to be usable on the MSB pack as well. Okay, that makes perhaps a bit more sense in terms of value for purchase then. There's a 166 whizzing through. Hi there, Jeremy. Welcome to the chat. Yes, I am feeling better. Thank you. Looks like we've got a yard over here, perhaps. And there we go, 2.3 miles. That is the line switching. So we are approaching that pass-through station and then the switchover point. So we need to think about bleeding our speed again pretty soon. A little dab of the brakes. Let's kill the throttle as well. Start to gradually bleed that speed. Make sure we don't get decapitated by the tunnel. There's another game coming out tomorrow that I'm kind of interested in potentially getting as well, and that's Snooker. Snooker 19. haven't played a good snooker game for a very long time. Let's release the brakes now. There's a bit of controversy over that, actually. Mark Williams, the current world champion, is not on the cover, and he's not amazingly thrilled about that. He's a little bit frustrated by that. His wife took to Twitter on a big rampage about that, saying that it was completely disrespectful for him to be completely ignored on the cover of the game. They've got 4 players on there. One of them's Ronnie. I can't remember who the other players are off the top of my head, but Mark Williams is not there, and he's the current world champion, and that, as I say, has not gone down well in the snooker community, both in terms of players and fans alike. But that comes out tomorrow. It's I'm trying to think how much it is. I think it's 30 quid, and it's currently 10% off. Or a $5 off if you pre-order on PlayStation Plus. It comes out tomorrow. I might possibly buy that a little later this evening. I haven't decided yet. I'm not sure whether to wait and see how it reviews first before I pick it up. I have also already gone ahead and pre-ordered Days Gone, and I will be running that on the channel. That is now just 9 days away until that goes live. No, sorry. 9 days away until I can auto-download it. It goes live a week on Friday, I believe. Alright, we can get a little bit more speed up again. Let's not overdo it. There's that little plume of smoke pouring out the engine as we increase the throttle. I do love to see the engines do that. It's just a silly little thing, but I love to see that. I really do. I'm going to do it again. It's just... it's childish, but I love it. Who is the publisher for the snooker game? It's not Codemasters. I don't think. Let me have a quick look. I'm going to load up the app on my phone and go to the store and have a look. Will it be available in the US? I would imagine so, yeah. I mean, pretty much any game that's coming out is going to be available in the US because it's such a huge market. I mean, I know a lot of the smaller sort of Eastern markets sometimes don't get stuff. I had someone asking me why they can't get Subnautica in Malaysia on PlayStation Network. It looks like it still hasn't been released in that territory yet, but it's such a huge market that most games that are going to be released will be released in America as well. The only games that generally don't tend to get released over there are ones that tend to stay pretty much exclusive to Japan. Snooker 19. It's $29.99 and 10% off if you pre-order before it comes out tomorrow. So $26.99 if you have PlayStation Plus, and that is by Ripstone. Yeah, but I haven't played a really good snooker game for I can't remember how long. I think I had a decent snooker game on one of the earlier PlayStations, maybe PlayStation 2, maybe PlayStation 3. I honestly don't remember. I do remember when I was a kid playing Steve Davis snooker on my Spectrum 48K. Those were the days. Back in the 80s. As a wee kid. AKM Legend is in the chat. How you doing, AKM? Right, we're on final approach to our destination. 60 zone coming up. Less than a mile to go. I'm going to keep bleeding the speed down because I know that it's going to be lower than 60 after the next one. I'm almost certain of that. Yeah, there we go, 30. Look, we need to actually apply the brakes even more. Make sure we definitely slow down for that. And release. 600 yards to go to our brake point. This is actually going to be tricky. I'm going to do this in cab. Put the brakes on again. We're going to roll up nice and slow. Now, Pete remembers Steve Davis snooker. Yeah, that was a great game. I used to love that game as a kid. There are a few games I used to love playing on my Spectrum that I still remember fondly. Treasure Island Dizzy is one of those. Steve Davis snooker. Who remembers Scuba Diver? That's a game I wouldn't mind playing again at some point. Alright, we've got to be really careful here because the signal is right at the very end of the platform, which is where we have to stop. So I'm probably going to just stop a little bit early, just to make sure we don't go through the red light. There we go. Job done. Excellent stuff. So it says wait for 21:43 for the service to start, and this is going to kick us out now. Yep, because the service carries on past Reading somewhere else. So we're going to quit to main menu. Let's run one in the daytime as well. FA Cup on the Spectrum. I never played that. Never played FA Cup. I don't really remember any football games from the very, very early days. There was one. I think it was Goal. I think it was. It was really, really bad side-scrolling. You had blue players and I think pink players or red players. That was it. It was okay. It wasn't great, but it wasn't a bad game. But everything changed when Sensible World of Soccer came out. Well, it was just Sensible Soccer to start with, which was just the game. And then you had Sensible World of Soccer, which brought management into it as well. That was... Oh, I loved Sensi Soccer. And all the kind of variants of that as well. You would get these shareware versions of Sensible Soccer. Like there was one that was 1943 or 1942, I think it was. And it was England versus Germany played on a battlefield. And instead of a football, it was a hand grenade that would bounce a bit randomly and would start to flash every now and again. And when it started flashing rapidly, you kicked the ball away and hope you kicked it to a German player because the hand grenade exploded. There was another one which was a Holland team was in there, and you basically had to score as many goals as possible, or stop as many balls. I forget. There were some really strange ones. Some really strange little variants, some little shareware versions of that with these weird, bizarre scenarios, but yeah, good old Sensi. Okay, let's go from Which one did we just do? We did Angerstein Wharf, didn't we? To Stoke Gifford. Let's do Bristol to Felixstowe. Ah, welcome, Bill. How you doing? AKM says, can't wait for Construction Simulator 3 to come out on PC, PS4 and Xbox. It's only on mobile. That's a long way off, I think, that one. Okay, we might actually have to turn the key on this one. Master key on. Reverse it forward, there we go. Make sure the brakes are released. There we go. Let's see what we're pulling this time. Ooh, cargo containers. As we pull our way out of the yard, or out of the station. I do like doing these sort of static camera shots every now and again now as well, just to see the entire length of the train run. This is going to be a long train with these cargo containers, which again means it's going to be a very heavy train, which is going to take a while to slow down. We have to be very careful we don't get caught running up against a red light, failing a scenario or failing the service. Still running. Still waiting for the end of the train. There we go. There's the end. That's a long train. Alright, let's catch up. Good stuff. Right. Let's go front cam. Oops. There we go. Pete says Hungry Horace. Oh god, yeah, I remember Hungry Horace. And Manic Miner. That was another great game for the Specky. Do I remember This Is Football on the PS2? Yes, I do. That was Sony's football game. You know, from Sony Studios. I forget exactly which developer, which publisher. Sony published it, but it was a first-party game rather than a third-party one. I remember that because you could get booked for yellow cards, booked for diving. You could intentionally dive, and you could end up getting players sent off for diving. I remember that, yeah. That was great. Some of the player models looked a bit weird. Their body shape was a bit wrong, but no, I do remember that. Mr. Watter's in the chat. How you doing, Mr. Watter? Welcome, Caitlin. Welcome to the stream. Pete says that's going to take some stopping. Yeah, this is a long train. You know, like I say, we've got to be careful with our speed on this one. If we run into any red lights, we're going to have to slam all the brakes on, I think, just to make sure we actually stop. I don't remember throwing elbows, but I do remember, deliberately trying to win penalties by diving in the area. More often than not, I would get booked. But yeah, I used to take advantage of using substitutions to avoid players getting sent off, so I could keep trying to dive and win a penalty. try with one player, he gets caught, gets yellow carded by the ref, so a little bit later you sub him off, put a new forward on, and then try again with him. Yeah, I remember that. What are the Spectrum games I used to play? I had RoboCop, side-scrolling RoboCop, where you had to eat baby food to get your health back, and I remember the iconic scene where you had to shoot the rapist. You know, in the movie you had that guy, you know, the attempted rapist who grabs and Robo shoots the guy through the dress and shoots him in the dick. There was that scene, but you had to shoot him in the head in the game. There was that kind of first-person kind of scene there. I had a Batman game. This is the other problem as well, going back to, you know, the days when you had these different formats like Spectrum and Amstrad and Commodore, and this is just in the UK market. Then you go to America and Europe, and you had all these different versions, or all these different systems, and the game would be wildly different between the Spectrum and the Commodore, or the Amstrad. They wouldn't be the same game. It would be completely different games in some cases. Not just in terms of the way that they looked, but the way that they played. Everything about the game could be substantially different. You know, you were buying the title rather than the actual, you know, the game. You know, the game was different on every system. Chucky Egg. Oh god, yes, I remember Chucky Egg. I had that on the Commodore. I had that on the C64. I don't remember having it on the Spectrum. Actually, I might have had it on the Spectrum. I don't remember. Way of the Exploding Fist was another one I had. A little side-scrolling karate kung fu game. Was it Shinobi? I think I had that on the Commodore. There was a sort of platform ninja game. Whizball was another one I had for the Commodore. I'm trying to remember some of these games I used to play now. It's been so long. It's been 30 years. Right, I think that's fast enough. Let's ease the throttle off now. We must be about the same age, says Andy. Well, I turned 40 at the end of last year, so make of that what you will. Yeah, I grew up with a little Amstrad Pong game when I was a kid. Then we got the Spectrum. Then I got a Commodore. After the Commodore, I moved on to a Super Nintendo. I had a Nintendo NES, which I bought second hand after that at some point. Had a Game Boy. And then I moved on to PlayStation, and I've never moved away from it ever since. Been with PlayStation right from the first one. I had two PlayStation 1s, because one of them got stolen. I had 3 PlayStation 2s, because one of them got stolen. 2 PlayStation 3s, and if you count the Pro, 2 PlayStation 4s. Plus I had a PSP Go, which was disappointing. And I've got a Vita as well, which I barely ever use. Unless I'm, having to travel somewhere. I've got it for gameplay on the go. So who else has old, fond games that they remember well? Games that they loved as a kid? Doesn't matter on the system or on the format, you know. Just because I didn't have other systems doesn't mean I necessarily didn't play on other systems. You know, I had friends who had Segas when I was a kid. I knew people with Xboxes, so I might possibly have played it. Oh, I missed out. I also had, alongside the PlayStations, I did have an N64 at one point, and I also had a Wii as well. Like most people, I bought the Wii and ended up mainly just playing bowling. I love the Wii Sports. Still my favourite title. Still, that and the Rabid games. For some reason, I love the Raving Rabbids. Or at least the first couple of them. They started to get a bit tedious after that. DQ says, my games as a kid were on the Atari 2600, loved Raiders of the Lost Ark and Adventure. I'm trying to remember, I might possibly have played an indie game when I was a kid. I can't remember. Honestly don't remember. Nicole has popped in the chat. How you doing, Nicole? Fave game for Nicole was Resident Evil on PS1 and Dino Crisis. Yes, I loved Dino Crisis. That was a great little game. It was kind of a stopgap game. It was until they could work on a new Resi Evil. They just kind of threw that out in the middle of the run. And I really enjoyed that. And there's talk of Dino Crisis potentially getting a remake for PS4. I don't know if it'll ever happen or not, but the rumours have been floating out there for a little while now. So who knows? We may possibly see Dino Crisis in the future. I remember the first time I played Dino Crisis through to completion, it took me just over 7 hours to do. Second time I got it down to 5 hours. The third time I did it in 3. Games have changed a lot, haven't they? You can play Dino Crisis start to finish in less than 3 hours. Road Rash on the Mega Drive, yes, I remember Road Rash. For the Americans out there, the Mega Drive is the Genesis in America. Only in America. Everywhere else in the world it's the Mega Drive, but for some reason Mega Drive didn't sound good in America. I don't know why. Mega Drive sounded awesome. But yeah, it was the Genesis in America. Oh, we need to slow down. Who remembers Outrun? That's like an old classic. That was on multiple formats as well, Outrun. Driving around in a convertible Ferrari. Alright, I get the feeling we're switching lines. Let's see, are we switching here? Yep, I had a feeling we were doing that, which means we'll switch again and a little bit further up. There we go. Now we can crank open the throttle again. Brakes are fully released. Wait for that rear of the train to clear the switch. There we go. Sonic the Hedgehog and Jurassic Park on Mega Drive. I never played Jurassic Park on the Mega Drive. Obviously I played Sonic. I think everyone of a certain age has played Sonic. It's just one of those classic platform games, isn't it? Sega's answer to Mario. But I did remember Jurassic Park Operation Genesis on the PS2, which was like the precursor to Jurassic World Evolution. That was a great game. Loved Jurassic Park Operation Genesis. DQ says loved Outrun and its spiritual successors, the cruising games, especially Cruising Exotica. Yeah, Outrun was a great game. It spawned all sorts of sort of clones and copies along the way as well. Oh, I'll tell you another game I had. I forget again. I can't remember if this is for the Spectrum or the Commodore. I think it was for the Commodore. Enduro Racer, which was a motocross style game where you had jumps and stuff. There was another game as well on the Commodore, and I can't remember for the life of me what it was called, but you could actually create your own courses. It took ages to do, but you could build your own courses, and then you could race in this kind of weird Micro Machines top-down kind of view, and you could put, you know, water hazards in, and big jumps, little jumps, long straights, tight corners. I can't for the life of me remember what that game was called now, but I remember that. I mean, that's going back 30 years. Cannot for the life of me remember what that was called. What was the game that you were in Outrun like that, but you were in a Porsche? Yeah, I remember that. It was a Porsche 948, I think. I think that was it Hot Pursuit? And you had to ram your opponents to get them to stop. Yeah, I remember that game. Now, I think they had to overtake them as well. You could ram them or you could overtake them. I think it was Hot Pursuit. I'm going to Google that. Another braking zone coming up. Let's apply some brakes. Kill the throttle. There's a listing on ZX Art for Hot Pursuit. No, published by Sinclair User, but no other information on that at the moment. So I think that was the game. Oh no! Chase HQ. It was Chase HQ. Yes, that was it. Chase HQ. I remember that game. Might have been a Porsche 944, actually. But yeah, I remember that. I had a copy of that. A little bit more brakes. This is what I love about these these TSW Tuesday streams. We just talk about random nonsense while we're running the trains. God, yeah, I remember Chase HQ. Never played World of Warcraft. Never had a PC for extended periods of time. I have played some PC games. I have PCs that were capable of playing some games at at various different points in my life, but never played World of Warcraft. I was never into the subscription model, and the need for an internet connection. I did a lot of single player gaming or local multiplayer stuff. Bill says he remembers Pole Position for the Atari 7800. Yep, Pole Position is a game that's bounced around on multiple formats over the years. I think there was a Pole Position style game on a Mac. We used to have this kind of after school, when I was back in middle school, we had this after school kind of computer club with some Macs that we could just play basic games on that came on the 5 1/4 inch floppy disks. Those were the days. And you wanted to play a game, some systems had cartridges, others had tape cassettes, others had discs, be it the 3.5 inch or 3.5 inch floppies, or the 5 1/4 inch very floppy floppies. Alright, Pete, thanks for stopping by. That's not leaving yourself much time for sleep at 2 AM if you've got to get up then, so get some rest, my friend. DQ says, I remember a Nigel Mansell F1 game, maybe on the NES. I remember hearing it, I don't remember playing a Nigel Mansell F1 game. I'm going to Google that as well. Nigel Mansell's World Championship was on the Game Boy. Oh, I might have played that then. Let's see. The game was largely successful on Amiga and DOS and was ported over to other home consoles. So it was on Game Boy. It was on the SNES, on the NES, and on the Mega Drive as well. Different publishers depending on which which system and which region as well. So, for example, on the Game Boy, it was published by Nintendo in Europe and GameTech in North America. On the Super Nintendo, it was Infocom in Japan, GameTech in North America, Nintendo in the EU. On the NES, it was GameTech in North America. They pretty much did all the North American versions, but it was Konami in Europe. And then on the Mega Drive, Konami did it on the Mega Drive as well. And again, GameTech on the Nintendo. So I might possibly have played that. I honestly don't remember. It's possible I played that at some point as a kid. TOCA Touring Cars on PS1. Yes, the original TOCA. I loved that game. I talked about it before, but that was when I had my first steering wheel. It was, I say, my first steering wheel. It's the only other time I've ever had a steering wheel was for my PlayStation 1. Was when I played TOCA. It was a great little wheel set. Had some pedals, just a brake pedal and an accelerator pedal, and it had a built-in sequential gear stick built on the right-hand side of the wheel. So I had the wheel, had the pedals, and then I had a little up-down lever to change through the gears, mounted on the side of the unit. I can't remember who made that wheel now. It's been so long ago. But I loved playing TOCA in first person with that wheel. And Colin McRae Rally as well was another great game for that wheel. The original Colin McRae, which would have been 94, 95, I think it would have been, back on PlayStation 1. 95, I think. But they were some of the best racing games I ever played. They were so enjoyable to play, Tocker and Colin McRae. I used to love blasting around some of those classic UK circuits like Thruxton and Snetterton and Alton Park and Donington and Brands Hatch. Yeah, I loved it. Keep them coming. Keep these games coming. I'm loving reminiscing about some of these older games. Throw some more at me. Codemasters in their prime. Yes, they were amazing games at the time. They really were brilliant. I remember being very pleased when Codemasters got the rights to do the F1 games back in the day, and then they just stopped doing them for ages. V-Rally, yes, I remember V-Rally from Sega. Championship Manager. Ah, yes. Ah, the classic Championship Manager. One of those games that just destroyed your social life. You spent so much time playing that thing. Once you got into it, you got hooked. Championship Manager was a great game. And then, of course, Championship Manager, the development team split at some point down the line after, I think, Champ Manager 3 or 4 or something like that. They split, and Championship Manager, the two people that founded the Championship Manager series, broke off and started Football Manager, and the rest of the team, the rest of the studio had the original Championship Manager license, but the people that founded and created Championship Manager started their own competing version called Football Manager, and they battled away for each other for a little while. I don't know if they're still both going. I would imagine they both are still going. But yeah, I remember Championship Manager. I think Championship Manager 2 was the first one I played. One of my mates had that on his PC, and he was a rabid Aston Villa fan, so he was always, playing as Aston Villa in manager mode on that one. Oh, we've rattled through the miles on this one already, haven't we? Just 6.5 miles to go. Who remembers MotorStorm? MotorStorm, wasn't that a game for the PlayStation 3? Or were you talking about a different game? If it's the PlayStation 3 one, I didn't play it. But I remember it coming out. Let's ease the throttle off. Start to bleed a little bit of the speed off as well, actually, I think. Tell you another sort of series of games I enjoyed playing on PC with the Dawn of War games, the earlier ones. Dawn of War, and then you had Dawn of War 2. And I think the third one was Dark Crusade. I enjoyed those. They were kind of a Games Workshop version of the sort of military strategy style game of oh god, what was it? Command and Conquer, that style of game. You know, build your base, build your units, build an army. And StarCraft as well, in that same ilk. I remember StarCraft. Andy says GoldenEye was the original shooter. GoldenEye was just one of those games that was phenomenal to play. That game sold more Nintendo 64s than any other game. It was incredible how much fun that was. Never owned an N64, never owned GoldenEye, but played a lot of it around friends' houses. Check the brakes are released. There we go. We've bled enough speed away now. Dusty's popped in the chat. How you doing, Dusty? DQ says GoldenEye had the best multiplayer. Mario Kart 64 was a blast as well. FIFA 98 with a funny angle of playing. That actually goes back before that. I remember FIFA 94, I think it was, with that kind of 3D side-scrolling angled kind of... yeah, I remember that, yeah. Like a 45-degree angle rather than a 90-degree angle or a 180 or whatever, you know. So you kind of scroll diagonally. Yeah, I remember those early FIFA games. It's amazing to think how much it's changed as a franchise over the last 25 years. And when you look back at the earlier stuff that they did and how little it's changed in the last 10 years. Ever since they started doing Ultimate Team. Paperboy. Oh, now there's a classic. Yes, Paperboy. Cycling along the streets, throwing papers at people's houses. Trying not to get run over as you cross the street at the end of the run. Or you know, riding down a pothole or something in the pavement. I remember those games. Yeah. DQ says, love the arcade version of that with bicycle handlebars. I never knew they did that. I never knew they did an arcade version with handlebars. That must have been interesting to play. Mr. Water says, who remembers Stormbringer on the Spectrum? I don't. I don't remember that game. Describe it. Give me some more details. What style of game? What was the premise? Dusty says, when I was little, my first games console was a PS2, and I remember playing Crash Bandicoot for hours. Have you played the remake then? Have you picked up the reimagined Crash Bandicoot? And if you have, are you going to be getting the new Crash Team Racing when that comes out soon? Remake of the original. Just a few hundred yards to go. Oh, I think I've made a mistake here with the brakes. We're okay. Let's release the direct brakes. Release the auto brakes. A little bit of throttle going, just to keep us moving. Trundle our way in. There we go. Another successful service. That's actually quite a nice little run that we've had tonight. We haven't broken any services. We haven't run any red lights. We haven't failed and had to restart the scenario. It's been a successful evening, I think. And we have obtained the Mile Muncher trophy as well, which was a big plus. Finally hitting that 1,660 mile barrier. Desert Strike was awesome, says Andy. I'm trying to remember Desert Strike. There's one game that I can't remember what it was called. I had it on the Commodore, and you had the option of 2-player or single player, and there was a helicopter above and a jeep below. The jeep had a turret, and the helicopter had a turret as well, which you could angle down. And it was side-scrolling, and I can't remember for the life of me what it was called, but yeah, that game in 2-player was awesome. But yeah, there we go. We have completed another run. I think we might call it a day just here. It's been a good couple of hours since we started running. I say we've had 2 successful freight runs. And we did that run with the Class 166 at the start as well. So if we go to our train info here, we can see 1,680 miles now complete on the Class 166. Obviously we've already done the Class 43. A little bit more work to do still on the Class 66. Up to 140 miles we need 660. So another 520 miles to go before that trophy's done. I've still got a lot of running to do with a lot of these other trains as well. Some of them I haven't run at all on this profile. Like the the S-Bahn hasn't been run at all on this profile. So I need to do some work on that. But next week we're going to probably run with the Amtrak stuff. So the ACS, and where is the CSX? Right next to it. There we go. The GP38. We'll be looking at probably running these two next week. Who knows? We might even go collectible hunting next week, because there is a trophy for collecting all the collectibles on the CSX route or the Amtrak route. So we might look at doing that next week instead of a normal running session. Something a little bit different. I'm not quite sure yet. So Right, we're going to call it a day. Thanks for watching. I'm Jim Bob, and I'll be back with some more TSW at the same time again next Tuesday. As always, more videos will be coming out throughout the week, so do keep tuning in for more Railway Empire, more Farming Simulator, and more City Skylines. And I will be back with another Cities live on City Sunday live stream at 6 PM on Sunday. So I will see you all again on Sunday. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.